Welcome everyone to another edition of Moya Talks, Hispanic Heritage Month. We are joined today by Federico Frum, Mas Paz, muralist. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Federico, you grew up in Arlington, but you were born in Colombia. So we'd like starting these talks with a little bit of the background from our guest.
Yes, cool.
Could you please elaborate a little bit on your background and tell us who Federico Frum is?
Well, my name is Federico. I go by Mas Paz. I'm an artist that is from the DC area. I grew up here in DC, but I'm from Colombia. I was adopted from Bogota, Colombia, when I was a year old, and I grew up here with an American family. And ever since I was a little kid, I was just drawing. I would always draw. I would um, I would buy posters that you would get, like a poster for a movie, and they would come with this cardboard on the
Uh-huh.
back of it, and I would draw on the cardboard. I would draw all these like Civil War kind of war battle scenes and stuff when I was a little kid, and then I got into comic books, and then I started drawing comic books and cartoon characters, type stuff like that, and I never really thought I was very good at drawing. I just, I like to do like a certain type of drawing, and I didn't think that that would get me anywhere. And so I studied photography. And when I was in high school, I was taking a photo class where we would print, like, in the dark room doing black and white photography. And I actually won an award when I was in high school for a photo that I had. And so I was like, wow, okay, maybe I have a talent with photography or something. And it's like, I always loved art, and I always like, that was what I would like to do. Um, and I wasn't really the super big and like reading or like doing like very intellectual stuff, I guess you would say, but I was always into artwork. So I went to college. I went to George Mason, and I studied photography in George Mason University here in Fairfax, Virginia, not too far away from here. And so I studied for 2 years, and then the digital kind of revolution happened, and and camera, like just a film camera was
Mhm.
kind of like digital cameras were coming out, and so I kind of felt like I just need to be part of this digital revolution, and I felt like the photography was kind of like that was kind of like dying out.
Uh-huh.
So I stopped studying photography. I changed my major into art and visual technology, and that's where I studied. I studied like Photoshop, Illustrator, film. I did printmaking and just all kind of aspects of artwork, but mostly focused with the computer.
Mhm.
And so I eventually studied. I eventually my final like thesis was a 3D model, studying 3D animation. So I modeled like a whole neighborhood uh, of like some of my family. I modeled their neighborhood in Colombia, in Medellin, and modeled their whole neighborhood. And like, it's really cool. I actually have it online. You can find it. And it was just like has like graffiti on the walls and like a banana plant. And like you go into somebody's house, there's like arepas and like chicken and like a record player and it also talked about a lot of the violence that happened in Colombia. And there's like a car that had been like car bombed that had put in the street. And it was a really beautiful project. I really like that. So then I moved to New York
Mhm.
after that to do a 3D modeling. And I couldn't sit at a computer all day. And I'll wrap this up. I'll be done soon.
No, no,
But I
no,
couldn't
perfect. Don't
sit at
worry,
a
don't worry.
computer all day. Yeah. And I just like I was in New York. I couldn't sit there working on a computer. So I started selling t-shirts in the street. So one of my friends, he had a t-shirt company, and so he would make my designs, and then I would go on the subway with a bunch of boxes and a table, and I would set up on Canal Street and Union Station, Union Square, and on 42nd Street, and I would sell my t-shirts. And they're all designs that I would make. This is actually a shirt I made a long time ago for Nike. So I eventually got different projects, and one project I worked for Nike, designing T-shirts and like in like a design studio. Um, so pretty much everything kind of started happening when I moved to New York, and I just kind of like started from the bottom, you know. And I ran a gallery, like a graffiti store and gallery. I worked for Nike for a while. I worked at the MoMA Museum doing graphic installation, like screen printing directly on the wall, like a text, and like working with some big people that have been doing this for years. It's just like just learning all kinds of stuff. And I also did a lot of graffiti in the streets, and just like learned how to paint murals and work with walls and like met like all kinds of like artists from all over the world in New York, and um and
For
eventually moved back here.
for the unlearned, how did you get into the graffiti world? How is it to start doing graffiti in New York? What's the community? How do you build up these connections and start working with other people?
Well, I was maybe like, maybe I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I went to New York City with my mother. My mother, she grew up in like Chinatown, and so we would go to New York like every year, at least like twice a year, and go visit her godmother. And so when I would drive to New York, you would just see all this stuff like in the streets and like what is that? And I would also see it here. So when I would like see this graffiti and you're like, how did somebody do this? Like where did they do it? How did they have the skills? Like just like so many questions show up. And like me as a this is who I am. I'm always the kind of person that wants to know how things work. You know, like how do you take that thing apart? Like I would
Very
take
good.
apart stereos and like so I always wanted to know how it worked and it was like the underground. You know, it was like something that was very hidden. You at that time there's no internet. And
Yeah.
there are no like and like so in order to find out about it, you just had to like do it you're by yourself.
Mhm.
And so I met friends growing up here in the area that did graffiti, and they kind of taught me. And then eventually, when I moved to New York, New York is like the mecca for graffiti. So like that's just like opened my whole world. Like whoa.
And how do you transition from graffiti to the kind of muralism that you do now?
So the good thing about graffiti is like you work on a piece of paper.
Mhm.
You like come up if you want to. You come up with your design on paper and you do your sketches and it's all on the paper. Paper is like not very big. It's this big, and then you have to take that paper and put it on a wall that's like big as this. Maybe, and you want to do it as big as you can. So people can see it. So maybe I'll try to paint this whole wall like that says Mas Paz or something.
Yeah. And you have to
So
do it
you have
super
to
quick,
learn.
right?
I'm sorry.
You have to do it super quick,
You have to
especially
do it.
these train stations or wagons.
You have to do it quick, and you're worried, and you're like, it's 3 in the morning. You're freezing cold. Your hands are like so cold, and you're like, oh my gosh. Um, but you have to take something small and make it big. So like that's what I learned. Like taking this little sketch. Sometimes I would have a little sketch this big, like tiny, and then I have to make it big. So and you're working on the wall. You're outside. You get to talk to people. You're not inside on the computer all day, so it's a good balance for me. Like I like change in my life. I always like to meet new people. Like here I am talking to you all. And then I have another project after this. I have to paint at 7-Eleven. So I'm gonna have to go paint at 7-Eleven. I'll meet a new customer, and then do a project for a National Portrait Gallery. So I have to go work with a whole new team. And it's like always meeting people, always like doing things new. So it's nice to have a change and to be outside and just like a new experience always.
How did you define your style? This very reminiscent of Latin American art or pre-Hispanic art. How do you reach that point?
When I was in New York, I was screen printing and I was doing like t-shirts and I was screen printing on paintings. I was making prints and stuff. And one screen print that I had made, I took a design of it's like a Colombian type of art. It's called Mola, and it's from Panama, Colombia. and I took this mola and I made a screen out of it so I could print it. And I love the pattern work. This is really connected with me. I think, man, this pattern work is so beautiful. So I started kind of taking that pattern work, which is very like bold lines and shapes and kind of abstract and native. And they say every mola has like a meaning. Every mola has like a story behind it, has a message, you know, to honor earth, to honor like our ancestors, to honor stories and just like fables and stuff. And so I felt very connected with just that message of the mola, and just I felt more connected with who I am, with me as an artist, and like and with my ancestry and my peoples, and I felt just kind of like I was keeping a story alive, you know. And so I was inspired by the mola and the line work and the colors and everything, and so I just kind of took the mola and just kind of started trying to do my own style. Like, let me talk about something that's meaningful to me. Let me talk about how like we have to be conscious of the water that we use and the air that we breathe, and I mean, I just heard today that like uh, I think like 69% of like all wildlife have died since like the 1960s. So it's like, are we conscious? Do we care about that? What are we worried about? Like the birds that are outside? Or are we worried about like how nice our car looks? You know, like where's our consciousness now? So like just working with the indigenous artwork and indigenous peoples and being inspired by their message inspires me, and just like it has grown to like what I do now. You know.
Excellent. And muralism, it's about storytelling, right? You have been in Mexico, you have been in many places, and Mexico particularly is a country with a rich history of muralism. How do you see connecting yourself with that history of muralism and an expression through this art, this massive art?
Yeah. Well, I feel like um, murals are free. You know, you can go and look at a mural. There's like one right here outside this wall. You know, and you can walk a few more blocks and you can see another mural that I did. You go down the street, you can see another wall that I did in this restaurant. You know, you don't have to pay for it.
Mhm.
You can get it free. Anybody can see it. A child can see it. There's no age limit. You know, my grandmother, she can go check it out anytime she wants to. You know, you don't have to pay to get in, you know, and it's access, it's free on the street, you know. And there's a lot of like museums like in New York. You go to a museum, you have to pay $25, $30, you know. It's like, so it's bringing the artwork to the comunidad, you know, to the community, you know. And it's free, you know. So it's like you can say a message. It's like wearing a t-shirt, you know. You can
Mhm.
wear it and anybody can see it, and you're spreading a message. Or anywhere you go, people are going to read it. So um that's the beauty of just like having something out there that like means something. And it's like I almost like to think of it as like you put a light bulb in a dark room, you
Mhm.
know, and you turn it on and like the room has a light now, you know. And so you take a message that's in a mural and you put it in the alleyway right here, and like it gives off energy, gives off ideas, it gives off like it can maybe inspire a little kid. Maybe a little kid is gonna walk by today and see me and say, oh wow, I've never seen a mural. And maybe I'll wave to him, you know, or her, and I show like this is what I'm doing. You know, maybe that could change that little kid's life. Man, like,
Mhm.
wow, I never thought that inspired me. I want to do that, you know? So I feel like the power of being in the street and being outside and having free artwork is like it's everything. And nowadays we also have corporations like McDonald's or like Rolex or like Mitsubishi, and you have to drive on the highway and you have to look at that billboard. I have to look at it. It's pretty much right there. Like that's like it's like putting a drug into the community. It's like this is what you have to look at. Why do we have to look at that? You know, why do we need to look at that stuff? Why can't I look at a real painting that's on the street, you know, that's made by a real artist, you know? Instead, we're fed certain stuff that we don't want to feed. So like even not to go even further, but graffiti is important because like graffiti is put in the street and it's like with no, it's illegal. you know? And it's like, and people get mad about graffiti, but then again, like what do we say about McDonald's or some alcohol advertisement in a neighborhood where there are nothing but children, you know? They're gonna grow up and want to drink, you know? So it's about having that free expression and something inspiring.
And about, talking about inspiration, besides creating, you also teach muralism and graffiti. What's
Yeah.
the process of teaching a kid or teaching a teenager to work on this?
I mean, it's very basic, you know, like some kids nowadays, they don't grow up to, they don't even know how to like use a scissors. They don't even know how to use scissors. I've worked with youth and I'm like, hey, can you cut this out for me, man? Like, we're gonna cut this out. They don't even know how to use scissors, you know? So like, and so like I think it's very important for kids to be, I can work with a kid and be like, hey, here's a brush. They've never used the brush before. They're like, they have to stand on a ladder. Some kids are scared to stand on the ladder. Like, oh my gosh, I've never stood on a ladder. Like the ladder might be like this tall. We have to hold it for them, you know? So like, so there's just a very basic, simple thing of just like them learning how to use a brush, you know, like how to take the time, you know, and like, and I just see what, oh, this is red. Okay. Oh, this is blue. Very simple stuff, but it's beautiful because then they'll know how to paint their house or they'll know how to learn how to work together with people. You know, I've done mural projects with youth in like an elementary school. I painted a couple murals in this one elementary school, and it's so beautiful because they're so excited to paint and they learn, they get along. You know, normally they fight, they might, but no, like you know, I think we have a good environment. So like, hey man, let's get along. Let's like you want to use the red, let them use the red for a little bit. Then let's change. You know, okay, then you can paint with red. So it's like very simple little things that like are beautiful. Just learning how to work together, learning how to use a brush, just learning how to like get out. Like they can't use a brush with their cell phone in their hand. You know, they have to put it down and hold one thing and hold the other. You know, so it's like. Um, and it's like they're not watching TV, you know, they're doing something different. And I think it really inspires them. It gives them like, it gives them some, it makes them, it uplifts them, you know?
Yeah, I worked with kids for a long time in summer camps, and you have to take away their phones for a time. And at first they're anxious because
Yeah.
they don't have something in their hands, right? And you start doing things, basic things, painting with watercolors, and it changes completely what they do.
Yeah. It's so interesting when you take that away and then they kind of like, they wake up like, oh my gosh, I'm in this world right now, you know?
I can actually touch it, right? It's interactive.
Can actually touch it, you know, and like, and even they get it on their hands and they're like, whoa, like it's so crazy. You can wash it off, you know. It's just like it can be a lot of fun to share with them, you know.
Excellent. Um, could you talk us about your collaboration with La Casa de la Madre y el Niño in Colombia?
Yeah, so La Casa de la Madre y Niño is the orphanage that I came from, and so ever since I was like maybe like 15 years old, I started going back to Colombia, and um, and I would go back and visit La Casa and I've painted a mural there, and I've like just done various like volunteer work working with the youth there, and just like seeing like where I come from and just understanding the whole political system of like foster care and like and just kind of like trying to do whatever I can do to help out these kids because that's where I came from, you know. I was one of those kids. Kids are hungry, man. Food will fall on the floor and they'll eat it, you know? Like some kids are crying. And if they're crying, like the other kids will eat their food, you know? And it's just like they're sad. So it's cool to just be there and just like be somebody they can talk to and just like some a different face than the normal people that work there.
Right. Now, could you tell us about the project you're doing for Moya? What do you get inspiration? How is it going?
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's something special about this project because just working with Paola, she was very kind of open about the design. And it's a beautiful wall. It's like a nice, big, tall wall, almost 4 floors. And and it's in a great neighborhood, you know, where I don't think there's too much murals. I actually painted a wall down the street about like maybe 2 years ago. My friend has a restaurant right down the street on 19th Street, and I painted in his restaurant. And he has a wall just like this. It's an alleyway, and he's like, Federico, you can paint that wall, no problem. So I painted the wall with my friends, and we did some really beautiful work. And then the owner came by like a few months after and painted, covered it over. And I mean, I had an artist from Colombia visiting, like beautiful. We did a really beautiful job. And then I had some other friends from. I had a friend from I think from from Montreal. He came and painted really beautiful work, and it got covered over just because the landowner thought that it wasn't like I don't know. He didn't like it. So there's not a lot of that in this neighborhood, not that I have seen, you know. So it's beautiful to have a space to share and just working kind of with the Latino community, with Paola, with everybody here. I feel the connection. But she was very open to the design. We had a various designs. Like one was this beautiful, there's like these hands with this butterfly and like I think like this beautiful sun um and then there's one with a jaguar, like kind of coming out of the jungle. And then there's the one that we have right now, which is kind of like a Mother Earth figure, kind of like sharing her hand, just like extending her hand. And then she has a like a toucan, you know, like a parrot bird with the sun behind it. Um, so it was really nice that I had submitted these pieces to these designs to Paola, and she really liked them. She was like, "Hey, these I couldn't decide which one," and I was like, "Wow, that's so cool," you know.
Yeah, we had a votation actually internally.
I'm sorry.
We had a votation internally about the designs, and it was difficult. It was like,
Oh yeah,
these are all great. It's like,
yeah, that's right. You all saw them. Okay.
right. So Federico Mas Paz, thank you very much. I'm going to open the floor now in case the staff
Yeah.
has any questions for you, the audience has any questions for you, and then we can wrap it up. So please go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Fede for working with us. This is so exciting. We being able to see your work, being able to see your talent in DC and outside of the area, it's just beautiful to celebrate it. And the mission and the values that you have and how you transmit so much love through the work that you do, I think is incredible. It's a beautiful story, and we definitely want to celebrate your work. So thank you so much for working with us.
Thank you.
Muchas
My pleasure.
gracias.
Do you have any more questions, any more comments, anyone?
I do have one more.
Right.
Well, yeah, question. Have you thought of doing any mural work in Colombia?
Of course. I
Commissions
think
or
I have.
something like that?
Yeah. I think I have 4 walls in Colombia. They're all in Bogota. hmm so I have a little bit of work there, and it's funny because when I go back to Colombia, I just want to like take it easy. I want to take a break, but like the art like calls me. I'm like, oh, go paint. So I should be there maybe in January. We'll see. Maybe I'll paint something.
Nice, nice. And you do collaborate with fellow Colombians as well when you are in
Yeah,
Colombia with other mural artists, right? You do that.
yeah. I have a wall over in I think in Rosales on
Okay.
La Séptima and La Cien, something like that. A
Okay.
nice wall right before you go up to La Calera.
Okay.
Right when you before you go up the road, then we have a nice big wall.
Okay. Okay. Good to
And
know.
that's
Good to
with
know.
four, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 other Colombians.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Thank
Right,
you.
Fede must pass. Oh, Lisa, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Yes, I don't have a question, but I definitely have a statement. Your story is such a beautiful example of really living in your purpose. And it's just really inspiring to hear that, it's not just art, it's not just something you see on the street,
Yeah.
but it's really connected and woven into the story. It sounds like of the people and the clients that you work with, but as well to the bigger picture, right? It really resounded that you just weave all of that together. So it's been really great learning more about you and your work, and it was just a true pleasure to hear your story.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, just hey, how you doing, Mas? Through Words Beats in Life, I definitely shared some space with this brother. I don't even think he remembers me, but what I remember is the meditation, kind of leading the group of meditation, and so connecting that to hip hop, to art, to the background, and just kind of centering and being present. And I just appreciate that kind of call to like the inner self that you presented. Definitely, this is an awesome project. Definitely look forward to more.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. I recognize you. I remember.
And William
Thank you.
is always in talks and he follows us. Thank you very much, William, for dropping by again. Rada, you had a question?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for the inspiring talk and the vulnerability that you shared with us. It's beautiful to have people like you tell us your story. You've mentioned something cool about involving children in art, and I know we're all spread out in, not only throughout the country but also across different continents. I was wondering, what would be your advice in terms of opening up the creativity with children, with our children, and how to encourage them to get more involved in that? Obviously, I would love to be in your area to have access to those workshops, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So just curious to see your thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I feel like I think and it's all about encouraging kids, youth, just encouraging them, inspiring them, and keeping their environment fresh. Always seeing new things, and it's just like, but very much encouragement. And like showing them. Like I have a friend, her daughter wants to be an artist, and she's like, Federico, but I don't really know if her artwork is any good. And I'm like, no, her artwork, I haven't even seen it. I'm like, no, her artwork is so good, because there's like no rule to creating artwork. There's like whatever you make is like, of course, once you get older, like maybe you shouldn't use that color, but when you're young, there's no rules, it's just exploration, so I feel like that can be an issue when it comes to kids. You're like, oh, maybe you're not doing it right, but no, like anything is good. Anything, you take a piece of paper and start cutting it up and stick it with some glue, with some cardboard, and put glitter on it. Yo, that's amazing. Because it's like it lets the kid feel like they can be themselves, they can self-express. They can explore. It's okay to explore. It's okay to make a mess. Like one of my friends says, like paint goes over paint. So anytime you make a mistake, you can always fix it. So like I feel like when it comes to youth, it's about like encouraging them, like, yes, what you're doing is great. Like keep using that crayon, keep using that brush, or keep using those markers. It looks so good. And I know that can be kind of hard because you might see some scribbling, like my brother, right? His son will do like crazy little drawings, and my brother's like, oh, that's ugly. And I'm like, nah, man, like that's amazing. That's so good. I even got a tattoo that my little nephew did. I got a tattoo on my leg
That's
just to let him
special.
know that his drawing was cool, you know? So I think it's just like encouraging them and always just knowing that they're like whatever they're doing as far as creatively is always very good. So keep it going.
Keep
Did
it
that
going.
answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jessica, we have time for one more question. You had one?
Yes, hi. I just want to say that I've seen your work and I've seen the lift. I'm on the other side of the wall when you're painting, so it's pretty cool, and it's pretty cool to see the progress. I haven't seen it today. I know that it's far advanced, but looking at your website, I saw that you had a project in El Salvador in 2018. I'm originally from Honduras, so it just kind of feels like you were home.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know what you know, what drove you to El Salvador? You know, what made you? And I see beautiful pictures of you with children on the street doing this mural.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just contacted by the Salvadorian U.S. Embassy to do a project, go out there and like teach, because I've done workshops with youth, and they thought I would work good for a workshop that they wanted to do, which is kind of like an anti-violence kind of workshop. So I was just like contacted by the U.S. Embassy, but luckily I've like done a lot of work with youth, so I think it worked really well. I fell in love with El Salvador. I love El Salvador. The people are so good, and I feel like when I was there, I worked with like 10 youth, 10 different youth from all over the country, like 10 different municipalities, and I still talk to them. I still talk to like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of them. And they're still creating artwork, and they're like, Federico, like, what should I do here? What should I do there? So it's just nice to trying to like inspire, just try to inspire the youth. And I was pretty much invited to do like a mural workshop. So like when I went there, I was just like gave them everything. I was just like, this is what we do. Like we went to a museum, we went to the park, we did drawing sessions in the park, and then we painted murals, and it's like it was a really beautiful experience,
Great, thank you. I
Fantastic.
just shared one of the pictures on the chat, and I think it has a great impact because you see that face of that, person and the eyes behind. So it tells a lot of Central America in that image to me. So thank you.
That's
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. It's been a fantastic talk. It's been great having you.
No, thank you so much for having me and listen to me chat.
Always a pleasure. And thank you
And
everyone
we'll
for
post
another
some
Moya
murals.
talk. Sorry,
Yeah, we're
Fede?
gonna post some images from the mural as it
Perfect. Share it with us,
advances.
please. Thank you very much.
Thank
See you next
you.
week
Thank
for another
you.
Moya
Thank you.
talk.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Enjoy the day.
Ciao.